1965 season is one that we'll always remember because the year we won the cup. Having had the disappointment of being knocked out in the semi-final by Leicester, to get that far again, we got to the semi-final against Chelsea. Tommy Docherty's Chelsea team, who were a super little team. They had Osgood playing, Terry Venables, Johnny Hollands, Charlie Cook, Eddie McCready, you name it. They had a smashing team. And we go to Villa Park, and it was played in a very, very heavy pitch. And we had been playing a European tie against Cologne only days before, and we'd arrived back for that. And we thought we might have been tired, but we were up for this one, and we beat them 2-0 to get to Wembley. And we're playing Leeds United. Now, Leeds were just an emerging team then under Don Revie. They had got up out of the second division, and they were just beginning to get what was going to be their best team together. They had a lot of the boys playing then. They had Johnny Giles, Billy Bremner, Norman Hunter, Big Jack, centre-half, Reaney and Bell, the full-backs, Gary Sprake in goal. And they had Albert Johansson played. I think probably one of the few black players in league football at that time. Albert was a South African boy. He played, and a lad called Jimmy Story, who I knew from Scotland, played against Jimmy when he played for Airdrie. And Big Peacock, who played at Middlesbrough, was a centre forward. So they were only about 2 or 3 players, probably 3 players away from what was eventually going to be a terrific Leeds team that would go on and win the championship and other trophies. But we were favourites for the game, and it was great. It was a great day at Wembley that day because there was lots of things that stick in my mind from it. On the way to the match, the boss was on Desert Island Discs, and he said, "Now boys, listen to this programme." So he said to the driver, "Put it up." So the driver's got it up, and it was, "Well, what about this tune? What do you like this tune for, Bill?" "Well, I like it because of this." And it was all like Scottish tunes. He played Scottish tunes, and Danny Boy was another one. He loved Danny Boy. Yeah. But it was so funny that he's standing up, he's walking up and down in the passageway, He obviously was feeling a bit nervous, getting up to Wembley. But the fact that he was on the radio and these tunes, and we were all singing away, with the songs that were on. And we got up around Wembley Way, and we could see the hordes of red and white, our fans. And I mean, that gives you a tingle when you get as close to Wembley. You see the towers, and you come up Wembley Way, and you see the fans. And that's when I think you realise the importance of the game. And we'd never won the cup. Liverpool had never ever won the cup. They'd been to Wembley a few times, but they'd never won it. And the expectations were high that this was going to be the day for us. So we get there, and Shanks was great in the dressing room. He liked to laugh and a joke, and he would always get things going in the dressing room. And Billy Stevenson could tell a good joke, and he'd always say, "Come on, Stephen, what's the latest jokes?" And Steve would tell a few gags or whatever. And at Wembley, it was sort of open house. The door was open. Jimmy Tarbert comes in with Frankie Vaughan. "Come in, Jim." "Aye, hello, Frankie." Chat and laugh, and give the boys a laugh, Jim. So we're all laughing and joking. And across the corridor, the Leeds United door was closed. Nobody allowed in. Banged shut. So Leeds have got their superstitious thing going. They were all very superstitious because Don, I think, was like that, and he sort of bred into his players, and they were so full of superstition it was untrue. Where in our dressing room, it was all very relaxed and laughy and jokey, and we got ready for the final in the dressing room, and the pressures were not there. There was no pressures in the dressing room at all. And of course, when it get about 10 minutes to go, and Shanks was, "Right, boys, clear the dressing room, get everybody out then," and then the serious business of winding us up. And he was great at motivating you, just say things to you that would make you, want to go there and just die for the club. Obviously, you could read the riot act when necessary, but in the main, he would build us up. Great motivator, build you up, make you feel great, tell you you're a great player. The opposition were always the worst team ever, the worst players and whatever. And then once you'd beaten them, he said, "You've just beaten the best team in this country. things like that. So it was a funny psychology that you had. Before you played them, they were rubbish, and after you'd beaten them, they were great. But we were always built up to be the best team, and that was important. And it would make you feel a good player, and he would want you to be always. He had a great saying: "Be arrogant, son. Go out and show them, and be arrogant, and really, let them see that you can play." And as a team, he would tell us, to really, you know, just overwhelm the opposition, and it was great. I mean, you could have sat in the dressing room and listened to him and just want to break the door down to get out there and play. I mean, it really, really could motivate you. So he would do that and get us all really in the right frame of mind for it. And then out we went. The Queen was there presenting the cup that year, and she was wearing red, and of course the Liverpool fans thought that was an omen. The Queen, they would chant, "The Queen's wearing red." And the game got underway, and a lot of people said it wasn't a good final, but when you're involved in it, I thought it was a good game, and we were knocking it around Wembley. It was a beautiful surface in those days, and we were knocking it around and we're playing away. And it was an incident that was to have a great bearing on the game when Bobby Collins, who was their little dynamo, inside forward, little Bobby, went into a tackle with Jerry Byrne, and they really clashed. And Jerry went down, and Jerry Byrne would never go down because he was so tough. But we thought he had a broken leg, because Bobby had caught him on the leg, but he'd also caught him with his shoulder. Bobby was only 5'3", and as he went in, he come right into Jerry and banged him on his shoulder and actually broke his collarbone. But we didn't know that. We thought it was a leg injury. So Jerry got treated, got up, and played on. So at half time, it's 0-0, and we're in the dressing room, and Bob then has got Jerry aside, and he gets his shirt off and straps his arm to his side. And he didn't tell us, he told Shanks. He said he broke his collarbone. But there was no substitutes in those days, so it was a case of Jerry going back out. Now, no other player, believe me, in our team could have done that. Tommy Smith, Ronnie Yates, myself, none of us would have been, I think, hard enough to go out there again. But Jerry got his arm strapped up, put the shirt back on, so he's got the flapping sleeve, and off he goes and goes back out to play. I mean, it's incredible bravery of the boy. And he only gets involved in the move for the first goal. Ends up getting the corner of the byline, the dead ball line, crosses the ball, Roger Hunt stoops down, heads it, 1-0 us. So we had a goal up in the second half, and we're thinking, this is it. But then Leeds, being Leeds, they were a hard team to beat. And Billy Bremner had pushed up, ball got nodded down, edge of the box, and little Billy rifles one in. Great goal, 1-1. And that was the way it was after the 90 minutes. And it was raining, and it was getting very tiring. So the socks are all down, and we're all facing extra time. And we go into the first period of extra time, and we'd have a good move. Ball goes out wide. Ian Callaghan runs down, crosses the ball. Now Gary Sprake, for some reason, had gone near postish. I don't know why he went where he went, but he went. I think maybe he thought he'd cut the ball out. Anyway, bypassed him, and I was coming in at the back. Nice big hole for me. Ran in. Goalkeeper was reported missing. Reaney had gone on at the goal line, and I just dived and headed it. A big swish as the ball hit the net, and all the rain came off the net. And that was just, really memorable experience of heading that one in. So all our fans go mad again, and we then have got to defend that 2-1 for the rest of the game. I think there was 9 minutes to go after that. And we hold out. And the last kick of the ball, they were pressing, Leeds were pressing. The ball's around our box, and Big Yates, with that left foot he has, just gave it one almighty smack, hit the ball out near the halfway line, and the ref blew. And that was it. We'd finally done it. We'd won the cup. And it was just history, and it was history being made, and we were all our team, I think, were very proud of the fact that we had been the team to win the cup for Liverpool for the first time. Getting the cup, of course, is the thing on the day, and Big Ronnie led us up the steps there, and the Queen presented him with the cup, and the first ever Liverpool captain to hold the cup up. It was a great sight, and we came down and we did our little lap of honour, and you really are in such a high after the game. I mean, it is incredible. I mean, the tiredness had just gone from our legs, and you could have ran round that track with a cup forever. But you get back in the dressing room, and everybody's like hugging each other, and the champagne's popping or whatever, and we're all going mad and singing, and pictures getting taken. And then you have your bath, and you come out, and we got on the coach, and we're going to the hotel. And the coach was so quiet, everybody was just sitting there. And I remember I was sitting with Ruben Bennett, and I said, Ruben, I feel terrible. I said, should we not all be singing and dancing? I said, we've just won the cup. He said, no, son, he said, you've been in a high all day. He said, it's only natural. He said, you've come right down now, he said. But don't worry, he said, you'll soon recover. And sure enough, we got to the hotel and met up with our wives who were down for the game and whatever. We got changed and off we went to the reception, which was getting held up at the Dorchester. We were staying at the Hilton in Park Lane, so it was just a walk. But when we went in from the coach into the Hilton, I had the base of the cup and Ronnie had the cup because we were rooming together as usual. And he had said to me, hold the base. And we've got this, and nobody wanted the cup in the foyer. Shanks had gone up to his room, everybody had gone, and we'd left with it. So Ronnie said, what are we going to do? I said, well, put it behind the desk here. So we went to the reception and said, do you mind keeping a hold of this for us? Yeah, sure. So they got the cup, stuck it down there. And I said to Ronnie, right, we'll see you back down here in half an hour. So we meet down the stair in half an hour. We go in the bar, obviously, have a few drinks there with the wives and all having a right jolly. We thought, we better get up to this do. And where's the cup? We'd forgot about the cup. So we got the cup, and off we went up Park Lane with the cup, Ronnie and I. And the wife. So we got to the Dorchester, and the banquet is about to start with no cup. The cup's not on the table. So, of course, Shanks, where are they, those two? He was always after us. Anyway, sorry about that, boss, and in with the cup, put the cup on the table, and the banquet commenced. And we had not a bad night. It wasn't a great night, but later on we had a drink with some Liverpool friends of ours that were down, and I remember saying, why don't we take the cup up to Piccadilly and show the fans and give the fans the cup? And that was the way I was talking. Just shows how stupid I was. That was going to be my plan. Let's go up. And one of the press lads was there, and he went, hang on a minute, you two. He said, don't be so stupid. He said, you just imagine you walking up to Piccadilly with a cup. You'd never have seen that cup again, would we? The next day we get the train back to Liverpool. We had a lovely day in the train, nice meal, another few drinks, champagne, all feeling great. And we got on the coach inside Lime Street Station, not really knowing what was going to hit us. It was an open top coach. We went out onto Lime Street, and there were people hanging off buildings. I don't know, how people never got killed. They were hanging off every building you could see. There was people. It was just a sea of people. And the police escort took us round the town. We didn't go anywhere other than round to the town hall, which was only a couple of streets from Lime Street to get round the town hall. And we got up to the town hall, and we go in, and we go up onto the balcony, and it was just a sea of faces. There was a 250,000 people out there, and Shanks, his famous speeches, and it was like Nero addressing the crowds. I mean, he had them silence 1 second, and then he would say, and we will win it again. Oh, and a huge roar would go up, and then he would go, and he'd be quiet. Then he would say something else, he'd roar again. And he had these people, he'd orchestrated this crowd. I mean, it was the most amazing thing. And he had them just eating out his hand. He was an incredible man. And it was a great day for us. The fans of Liverpool were treated like the players of Liverpool by Shanks. You know, he would say things to them, and he would say things on radio or television or in the press that this is what we expect from our fans. You know, and we don't do this and we do that. And as soon as he said that they do this and do that, they did it. You know, and I do believe that in later years, when we had all the crowd troubles in the 70s and the 80s, that had Bill Shankly been at Liverpool then, Liverpool would not have been tainted by that. Because the fans really looked up to him. He was the godfather. And whatever he said went. And if he said, you don't do that, then they wouldn't have done it. And their behaviour was always exemplary under Bill Shankly. And as I say, he treated them like they were part of the whole team. You know, it was them and us. There wasn't he didn't differentiate between the fans and the players. It was all us. We were Liverpool. Crowds, players, staff. And it was a very unique thing. And that was the way it was right up until the boss retired in 1974. In the 1966 season, after the success of having won the cup, we were in the Cup Winners' Cup. And we then went through that again to the semi-final stages where we played Glasgow Celtic. Now Celtic, a great club and a great tradition, and we're playing them. We went up to Glasgow and they beat us 1-0. Jock Stein was the manager of Celtic, and they were a great team, Celtic, without a doubt. First British team to win a European Cup, and to do it with 11 Scots was just an incredible feat. So the Celtic were one of the major clubs in Europe. They beat us 1-0 up there in Glasgow, then they came down to us, and they had fans living in Liverpool for days looking for tickets for this game. I mean, they've got most amazing support, and there was, I think, thousands of them locked out the ground. But it was a game that finished on a nasty note. We won the game 2-0. Jeff Strong got a goal for us with a header, and he damaged his cartilage, Jeff, but played up the front, went from defence up the front, and got a header in, and they scored the second goal. So we won 2-1 in aggregate. But just a couple of minutes to go before the end, Bobby Lennox got through, but the linesman put his flag up, he was offside. But Bobby didn't know, so he carried on running, knocked the ball past Tommy Lawrence. Now, everybody, all the players knew that he was offside. Obviously, Bobby didn't know. But the Celtic fans then went berserk. And it was at the time where you could take alcohol into grounds. So they had plenty of alcohol with all empty bottles, as it happened at that stage of the game. Well, the bottles came flying onto the field at the Anfield Road end where Bobby Lennox had knocked the ball in the net. And it rained bottles, and the bottles were smashing onto the bar and the post. And Tommy Lawrence had to run out of the goal. And the game was held up for a few minutes, cleared the broken glass or bits of bottles and all that away from the goal mouth. And the referee played about another minute and then just blew up. He blew up early to get us off. And really, so the Celtic fans may have cost their team a goal. Who knows, they might have got a goal in the last minute or two. But so it finished, as I say, in a very nasty note. Having beaten Celtic in the semi-final, we play Borussia Dortmund in the Cup final, Cup Winners' Cup final up at Hampden Park. Now that should all have been in our favour, the fact that our fans didn't have far to travel. We would have expected to get a big support from the Scots. But on the day, it rained cats and dogs in Glasgow. It just was torrential. And it cut the gate right down to 40,000. Plus the fact it was live on television as well. So we were disappointed with that because we would have been expecting maybe 70 or 80,000 there and to give it real atmosphere. But the Germans were a very good side, and they had some World Cup players from '66 playing. And it was a game played again very open game. The Germans scored first. Ziggy Held, who was a very good player, centre forward, big lad, crew cut hair, had been a member of the German World Cup squad in '66, and he scored, banged one in from the edge of the box, great shot, gave Tommy no chance. But Roger Hunt got the equaliser, and Roger had played the game with a bad ankle, and Shanks was debating before the game whether to play him or not, and he took the chance. He got his ankle strapped up and played. And to be fair to Roger, it was only because he's such an honest lad that he would probably play, and he must have been in some pain. But anyway, Peter Thompson had got down to the byline, little jinky his, crosses the ball. Some people think the ball might even have been out, including the Germans who were protesting at the time, but he cut it back and Roger swept it into the net, 1-1. So that's how it was after 90 minutes, more extra time. We seem to be playing so many extra times. So we go into extra time and it looks as if it was going to end up a draw. But they got a breakaway, and Tommy Lawrence came out to the edge of his box, challenged one of their players. He slid in on the wet turf, Tommy, and the ball ricocheted out to their outside right, a guy called Labuda. As Tommy is making his way back to goal, Labuda chips him from around 40 yards. The ball sails to the back post, hits the back post, and as Ronnie Yates is running in to try and retrieve the ball as it was floating in, it hits Big Ronnie and goes in the net. So we lost on a really bizarre goal, lost 2-1. And again, the disappointment for the players was tremendous because we felt that this was going to be our chance. The fact that we'd been robbed the year before with Inter Milan in the semi-final of the European Cup, to get to the final of the Cup Winners' Cup, play at Hampden Park, this was going to be the year where we could say to Shanks, there's a European trophy for you, boss. And it never happened. So it was very, very disappointing. The following year, again we're in Europe because we won the league, 66, so we're back in the European Cup again. But we never quite got the momentum as we had in those other years. And because the team at that stage were getting together collectively, we were getting towards the age where it needed revamping, as we were all getting around the 30 mark, some 31, whatever. A few of the younger lads like Callie, Tommy Smith, Chrissy Lawler, they were the younger ones. But the rest of us who'd all been together that time were getting towards the end. And we didn't do badly that season. We didn't do badly the following season when Leeds United came to Anfield, needing only a draw to win the championship. And they got the draw. And it was a great night and a very sporting night for the Liverpool fans' point of view, because Leeds came out after they'd won the championship, and they came out onto the pitch and the Liverpool fans applauded them all the way around, well done. And I mean, it was a very sporting gesture because Leeds were our big rivals then. They had developed from a 65 final. They had got stronger. They'd got new young players coming into the team. They had Peter Lorimer, they had Eddie Gray, they had Jones, they had Clark, they had Terry Cooper at left back. So they were a much stronger team, and they were on the way up to become the champions, and quite rightly so. But our fans were terrific on the night, gave them a great reception. But we were then on the twilight zone, and Shanks had to do the inevitable, start leaving players out and moving players on. And it was the hardest thing he had to do. He told us that. It was the hardest thing he'd had to do in his football life, was to break up that team in the 60s. When it happens to you for the first time that you are left out the team, it's hard to describe it. It's like total disbelief. And it happened to me up at Newcastle. We were playing there, and we'd been up the night before to stay as was normal. And I'm at the ground with the players, and I go out to leave my tickets. And I'm standing chatting to Jackie Milburn, the late great Jackie Milburn. And he said, somebody gave him a bit of paper, and he went, "Aye man," he said, "you're not playing." I went, "What do you mean I'm not playing?" He said, "I've just been handed the team here." He said, "You're a substitute." I said, "What?" So I stormed into the dressing room, and Shanks is not there. So Bob Paisley and Ruben were there, and I said, what's happening? And they said, no, look, just you calm down here. Just you've been made 12th man. I said, nobody told me anything. He said, well, look, just keep calm and just, get the jersey on. And Shank stayed out of the dressing room and only came in with about 5 minutes to go. And, come on lads, whatever. So I'm like, I've took the real pet. I'm not talking to anybody. So we go out, and I just went in and sat in the dugout. So Bob's saying, come on, get out and warm up. And I said, I'm not going to warm up, I'm staying here. So, there was nothing they could do with me. And I sat there right through the game, and we're losing the game. And Bob's saying, right, you'll be going on here now, get up and get warmed up. And I said, Bob, I'll only warm up if he comes down and tells me to warm up. And I'm going on. Oh, so the two of them are sitting there looking at me thinking, he's giving me a lot of pain here. And anyway, Shanks wouldn't put me on, didn't put me on. We lost the game. So I go in, obviously, the Monday morning, straight into the office. Knock, knock. Yeah. I want to see you, boss, right? Why didn't you tell me I was being left out? So he said, I announced the team in the dressing room and you weren't there. He said, it's your own fault. So I said, well, why didn't you tell me, the Friday night or whatever? But he wouldn't give in to the fact that he couldn't face having to tell me. And that was the only way he could do it, was drop a cheap sheet on the table and the dressing room would do a runner. And I was raging, obviously, and I'd never been out the team since I got into it at Motherwell as a kid. When I got in the first team at Motherwell, I was never ever out the first team again, right through till that particular day at Newcastle. And it is a strange feeling, because when you always feel that you're playing every week, you're very much part of the team, and then all of a sudden you're not part of the team, the disappointment, and you start then questioning yourself, and you're saying, the manager's wrong, and I'm still good enough to play, and the guy who's taking my position, he's no good anyway, how can they pick him in front of me? And you really are in turmoil for quite some time, and it was weeks before I really come to terms with it. And Bob Paisley was great, because Bob took me aside at the training ground one day. He said, look, Ian, he said, it happens to us all. He said, it happened to me. He says, it's happened to everybody. He said, I got left out of the cup final team. He said, I played in the semi-final, which I knew the story anyway, but he said, I got left out of the cup final team. He said, you could tell how disappointed I was. I said, yeah, I know, Bob. He said, now look, he said, you can be invaluable to us, he said, if you play in the reserves with the kids and help the young kids along. Or, he said, you can be, just trouble, he said, and with the way you're behaving at the moment. And I thought about it, and I said, well, you're probably right, Bob. And I just then came to terms with it. And I played in the reserves, but Joe Fagan was the in charge of the reserve team. And Joe was great with me, because he would give me responsibility. He would say, well, on Saturday, and this would be like following week after the game, he'd say, on Saturday, we did this and we did that. What did you think, Ian? And, and bring me in. And I'd say, well, I thought this, Joe, or that, Joe. So I got some responsibility from Joe, which was great. He was recognising me among all the youngsters, like Philly Thompson and the kids that were coming through then in the reserve team. And I had been at Lillishall and had my coaching badge then, so I was a full badge coach. My idea being that I would go into coaching and management when I finished playing anyway. So that was my plan. So it was a little step in that direction, where I was being given a little bit of a license to have a say in how we were playing, and my ideas and this, that and the other. And it was good, and I enjoyed that for about 6 months in the reserves. Occasionally Shanks would put me in the squad as a substitute, and of course the crowd, I was still a big favourite of the crowd, and they would be chanting my name, wanting me to go on, and the boss is thinking, I don't want to put him on, because if he goes on, and usually when he did put me on, something would happen, like I'd get a goal, or I'd set up a goal, and of course the crowd would go potty again. And this was all against really what Shanks was wanting to do, which was revamp the team. And looking back on it now, of course the boss was right, but it's hard to take for the players of our team, myself and the others included, to be left out and to be moved on when you still feel that you can make a contribution. I then got the opportunity to move to South Africa to be player coach under George Eastham, who was a player manager of a team called Hellenic in Cape Town. And Shanks came to me and said, look, would you like to go to South Africa? George Eastham wants to take you to South Africa. And I thought, well, my career's finished here anyway. And I said, yeah, I'll have a chat with him. So I talked to George, and off I went to South Africa, and I stayed there for a year. And I had a great time, coached the team, played. We won the league, we won a cup. It was back in the big time again. Full houses at Greenpoint in Cape Town. Wonderful, I had a great year there playing. And it just revitalised me again. And it was just a great time in my life. While I was out in South Africa, I got a call from Coventry City. Noel Cantwell was the manager, and he said, when you come back here, would you come to us? He says, I'm looking for an assistant. So again, I'm thinking, well, that's a good career move. As well as being the assistant manager, I was also in the team. Now, I hadn't expected to be in the team because I thought my days of playing First Division football were over, but they obviously weren't that well endowed with players that I was able to be selected. And I played, I think, about 16 games, and I scored a goal for them that I'll always remember. It's one that sticks in my mind. It was at Goodison Park. Now, I always loved playing at Goodison Park in my Liverpool days. Now, to go back there with Coventry, who had never won there, and get a result, and me score the winning goal, was just fantastic. Big Gordon West was in goal, and I mean, the fans had been giving me terrible stick, obviously, as an ex-Red coming back there, and they were giving me real down the banks. But as football is, as my wee mate would say, it is a funny old game. I knocked this one in towards the end, and Coventry City won the game, and the Evertonians were really sick, and I got a laugh out of that for a long time. But the honeymoon period at the club was soon over because Noel Cantwell was under a bit of pressure from the chairman, Mr. Derek Robbins, and we got around the Easter time, and the club were in their usual position as they have been then and since, always just above the relegation zone. And the chairman decided to make a change. So he called Noel over to his house one Sunday morning, and Noel and I lived opposite sides of the street, and he came over to my house and said, the chairman wants to see me, would you like to come with me? I said, sure. So we went to the chairman's house, and there was an almighty row, and the chairman decided that Noel was to be sacked. And he said to me, he would like you to stay on. So I thought about it for about 10 seconds, and I said, well, Mr. Chairman, my allegiance is to Noel. He brought me here and to work with him, and I feel that if he's been sacked, I'm resigning. So I resigned and put myself out of work, with the result that I'm out of job, and I'm sitting at home thinking, what do I do now? And I got another call from South Africa. George Eastham said, would you come back out? So I thought, well, why not? So I jumped on the plane and went back out to South Africa for another 6 months. Came back, and that was me finishing. I had enough, as it were, and was finishing. But Ron Yates, my big pal, had got the job at Tranmere Rovers as manager, player manager. And he said to me, look, how about coming and helping me here? So I went up and started playing with Tranmere Rovers. I think I'd played 9 league games, and we never lost one game. And I was really enjoying it there because Tommy Lawrence was in goal, old pal of ours from Liverpool. Billy Stevenson was playing, who played with us at Liverpool. Ronnie, myself. So we had a good Liverpool background there, and a few young players coming through, and we were really going well. We were at the top of the 3rd division, going for promotion, and everything's looking good, and I'm playing quite well for them, and we're training, playing 5-a-sides, and I fell, and a lad fell on top of me and broke my leg, and that was me finished. That was the end of my career. I never ever got fit again to play.
You're listening to Ian St John. If you wind to the end of side 3, you'll hear more from Ian on side 4.